All right, guys. Chocolate and mint. Cozy design for this was my second design, and it's my second design of the day. Let's get started on this fun painting. Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I do have my phone in the middle of my view here. Hi, guys. Welcome. And this is the second live stream of the day, and I'm really excited. I am looking forward to this fun chocolate mint set out on a board. I don't know. It was the reference. See? That's what the reference looks like. So we're going to be doing it with that dramatic coloring also. I like the white mug, the white cup, hot chocolate with mint and chocolate, or maybe it's mocha coffee with mint and chocolate. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I am really excited. We are doing comfy and cozy and all things uplifting to the heart. And you know, in the evening, I'm going to say this is hot cocoa. Just because it's evening, hot cocoa with mint and chocolate, after dinner dessert, before bedtime treat, wrapping up in your blanket with your fuzzy slippers on, and just enjoying the evening. Thank you. Oh, lovely. So I did all of these designs in a marathon. All of the designs were then put together in a downloadable book. This book is available on Teespring, all 30 designs from the 14-hour marathon. We did do a design this morning, and it's done on the same paper. This is the Hahnemühle bamboo mixed media paper. And remember at the show this morning, I showed you how it was all warped and bumpy. Look at it now. We're pretty darn flat. Okay, we're pretty flat now. It's a little bit domed, but that would go into a frame now really easy. All I did was take my spray bottle, spritz the back of the painting, and make sure there's no puddles on it, and I put it underneath of some heavy books on a flat, clean table with a piece of paper between, just to make sure nothing got onto the painting. And I just left it there until it was dry. Now, maybe it wasn't quite dry. I think it feels ever so slightly damp, and that's probably why it's starting to cup a little bit. But that was a lot of fun. If you're interested, this video will be linked up here in the playlist. It's the Cozy Creative playlist for January. All right, we're going to get started here. Looking at this, I am going to I think I'm going to put in a line. So we're going to have that dark right at the very back. I think I'm going to go ahead and say, let's see, the table. I want this to be fairly straight. So I'm just going to take something that's a straight edge. And this piece of paper seems to be pretty straight. See, even though I picked up a pen that wasn't working. I don't want it to be super harsh lines, so I do want it to draw a little bit though. Come on, pen. See, sometimes that's what you have to do. Just tap it, tap and roll, tap and roll, tap and roll, tap and roll, and then the pen starts to work. So, there, and all the way to the edge. So now I've got that table in the background, or the edge of this table in the background. So I can go super, super dark in the very background. I could even put that light window over here. So I think that's going to be over here. The windowsill. And then it just sort of falls down to towards the counter, or towards the wall. So there we go. Yay, Kristen, you made it. I'm so glad you kind of missed it this morning just by a few minutes. But you're here now. Awesome. So there. That's all we need for the background. I am going to go in and I'm using the inexpensive watercolors again. I will be changing it up and using other ones. Or do I want to... Do I want to use... Yeah, I'll just use these. They're out. I'd have to go digging for my other ones. So I am going to go and do that bit of really dark background again. I am looking here to see if I've got a piece of my plastic board that is... Okay, I'm going to have to stand up and look and see. I thought I had... Oh, that's way too big. Oh, well. I was going to use a piece of it that's a little smaller. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that, guys. I'm usually more organized, as you know. So, what I'm going to do, I've got this piece of the plastic board. And that's just Coroplast. It's a plastic... corrugated plastic, so it doesn't warp when it gets wet. And that way I can extend my area here just a little bit. Since I'm using most of my wide space, I don't want to put paint down here on the bottom to mix because I'll run my hand through it. So going off to the side sounds good. I am grabbing some of that Prussian blue. See, nice, deep, dark blue. Get some of that on there. And then I'm going to grab some of this sort of sepia tone. Sorry, that sepia tone that's on there. It's a brown. See how that's making that look more inky black? Way more black than the black that comes with the paint palette. And I'm not going to wet that part. I think I'm going to just go like this and go around the cup. Paint is still wet, so as long as I don't let the edge of that paint dry out, I can keep working it across. So I saw that Linda said that she's, halfway done with hers from this morning? That's awesome. I'm just going to work it across again, just to get that dark there. And I'm looking at the table, and the table is actually lighter than that area back there, so we'll probably be darkening that up. But I'm going to go like this and put some of that dark into the table here. I think maybe I'll just work it like this. I think that I drew on the wrong side of this paper to do watercolor. I see, or I've got something that was on my hand. Ooh, look at that, how that just makes that board just pop up without even doing hardly anything. I'm going to come over here. There's going to be some more browns and stuff like that worked in, but for now, I think I'm going to just do this as my basic background. I don't think I even need to worry about that too much. Let's see, get that. All right, Kimberly, you are an acrylic painter. How do you start with watercolor? The easiest way to start with watercolor really is to do something like this, where you have a design that's down, and you look at your painting, find the areas. You know how with acrylic you color block things in? You can do the same thing with watercolor. You can color block in. See how I'm doing it? Even though I'm working with watercolor, I am doing a dark color first, aren't I? You can do that. You just want to, so I'm working around, kind of negatively painting in. Watercolor, I always thought watercolor, believing what everybody told told me watercolor is really, really hard. And when I was little, I thought watercolor was hard because everybody told me that it was hard and that it was something that could get away from you. But if you work in fairly controlled layers, and don't worry if you splat a little bit of water around or, you know, things like that, just relax and color block it in. So you see my color that I mixed up was a brown, and it was a sepia tone and a Prussian blue. So neat thing here is that it is actually granulating apart a little bit, which is very surprising because these are cheap watercolors. You know, I'm not using the most expensive watercolors here. I would suggest getting something like this. This is just a very inexpensive $15, $16 max is what I would pay for it on Amazon. I have it listed in my affiliate links down below. So that's what I'm using. I would not say that, you know, these are probably not going to be archival for 100 years, but they're archival enough to get pictures done and make cards. They're archival enough to make a card and give it to someone. And, you know, they're probably archival enough if you don't use the pinks and purple tones. My light testing that I did, I just hit my camera. Let that settle down for a second. The light testing that I've done on this exact palette is that anything that's a violet kind of purple, so the 4 purples that are on here, those all tended to fade. The magenta red type color that's on here, the blue red, I believe has whatever color they use in these purple tones, and that one tended to fade. Everything else was rock solid after a year of sitting in my south-facing window. So I found watercoloring to be relaxing when you approached it as I present it. The design down, working in small areas at a time. Exactly. That's really the trick. Work in small areas at a time. You don't have to use a big brush, but truthfully, just like working with acrylic, sometimes a big brush really helps. Now, my paper is starting to dry. I'm going to go in and actually put a few of those sort of lines coming out that are going to be sort of like the grain lines in that wood. It's not going to be, you know, perfect. It's not actually going to really make that much of a difference in the long run of things. Wet the paper, add the paint, see what happens. Magic happens. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go like this and see what happens. And look what happened. It actually, because that paint is wet. Ooh, that's cool. I did not expect that. What it did is it kind of lifted in a few of those stripes. It sort of lifted the paint. That's interesting. Oh, I like that. Actually, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to lift some of the paint. Just like that. I'm trying to keep my grain all going sort of in the same direction. It's not necessarily matching the reference picture, but it's giving us some little texture lines. Nothing big, nothing, you know, worrisome. See how my brush is split a little bit? And when I'm painting across here, sometimes it's moving the paint in interesting ways. More things to play with. And that's it. We are doodling. It is not anything to get stressed about. If it's not working the way you expect it, don't worry. Don't worry. you can just keep playing with it. You might be able to make it work into what you want it to be. Or you can always cut it up and use it for collaging, to do a collage background type of thing. I am going to water down. I'm going to use that same mix, but I'm going to water it down a lot. There's just that blue and the brown in it. And I'm going to come up here and just put a little bit of that super watered down gray right up there in that top corner. And I see kind of a stripe. And you know, I don't always wait until things are completely dry. If they move, if color moves, it's just the way it's supposed to be. Just the way it was supposed to be. I'm going to take some of that down into that shadow area. See how that on there, there's like the window gray, and then I will go back in and put a tiny bit stronger of the gray right along the edge of that windowsill. But I'm not worried about making it super, super dark. Maybe just a little bit more dark. If these colors flow up into the window a little bit, that's okay. Look at that. We're just getting some interesting textures. I am going to now take a bit of brown and the sort of sienna brown and that sepia brown. I'm still working with that big brush too. I want to put some of that color down in here. And this is that bamboo paper, so it does buckle. But as I showed you, all we have to do after it's dry, wet the backside, and put it underneath of a book or a couple books and let it dry. Ooh, that's looking pretty. Yes, a big glass cutting board is a great palette to paint on, or a great surface to paint on, because you do have your palette area right off to the side of it. So down here, this little bit, that's under the tape. Some of my picture is under the tape, and I like that. There's a little bit of the cutting board up here that's under the tape also. I really liked how that tiny little bit of it right here of that iPad that was under the tape, how it stayed nice and crisp and white. I like that. It's a surprise. It's something that you don't expect. I think because the green of those leaves is far enough away from from all the wet stuff around the outside, we're going to go play with some of those spearmint or peppermint leaves. And I am going to go in, actually, surprisingly, I'm going to go in and use this sort of lemon yellow. It's a bright yellow. Possibly not something you would expect. I love that this community is here to help each other answer questions. If I don't see a question and they are answering, please. Many of the community has been here for a minute or more, and many of them have hung out with me for hours at a time. So right now I'm just putting that bright yellow right down in the leaves. This is dry paper. And because ooh, that's interesting. I have long hair, and it kind of clings to my sweaters and things like that. And sometimes it drops onto my paintings in unexpected ways, or clings to my fingers in unexpected ways. So anyway, I'm putting the yellow on first because I want that as the basis underneath of these leaves. So if I use a paper towel and blot after I put green down, I can get back to that brighter highlight. That's a trick that is a lot of fun to have. Now, I'm just going to be careful around these leaves as I paint. Ooh, I just noticed the inside of that handle. Let's see, the inside of that handle is all in the background. So I'm just going to go like this and just pick up some of that brown or that gray and just plop it in. Look at that. Boom. Doesn't take much. Maybe put just do a little drop and drop a little bit of the brown in there. Yeah. Directionally letting the water flow, helping the water, encouraging the water to flow. This part right back here, I'm going to make it darker, this bit, that stripe. So I'm going to go ahead, since I see it and I'm thinking about it, and that's something else. If you see something and you're thinking about it, see, I'm just going to go boom, 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 boom. Get that in there. Our lovely, flowy, just relaxed background. Nothing major, but that way I can get it a bit darker. Maybe even a bit darker. I'm making my paint a little bit thicker. This is just shadow back there, you know, it's not lit up. And it actually, that sort of fades off. And then you get a little bit of the light that's flowing down the wall. So I'm just going to take my wet brush, just sort of touch that edge and make those lines go sort of across. Just a little bit, not too worried. Actually, I'm going to take some of that darker paint and get it right here on the edge of that window. There's a bit of that seal, I guess is what it is. You don't have to do that. I'm just going to. And then I'm going to let it blur out just a little bit. Just taking clean wet water. Clean wet water. A clean wet brush. There we go. So we've got that, we've got that. Now we've got the bright yellow going in on the leaves. This was drawn with that same pen, that the Eco Pen. It is a waterproof ink, 0.38 for the tip, and they don't ship them to California apparently, but if you have friends that live other places, you are certainly able to, you know, have your friend order it and then they can send it to you. I've had many in the community say that that's something they do. I'm going to take this and mix it into that sort of gray brown. This is sort of a bright green, and I'm mixing it into that reddish brown, and it brings it down a little bit. And then I'm going to go in and just sort of in the area where the shadows would be, drop that in. See, those are darker leaves down there. And then I'm going to touch it. See, I didn't fill it in completely. Let's zoom in on that. Let's zoom in. Come on. And in my head, what I heard was the dog from the Bush's Baked Beans commercial, who's like, roll that beautiful bean footage. Sorry, it is, you know, maybe a little bit later in the day. A little bit later in the day, a little bit silly. I'm just putting some of that green in. I can brighten it up still because it's such a light layer that's going on. See, it's not totally 100% super dark. I just picked up a little bit of that dark paint, that dark shadowy paint. I am going to go down here. This leaf is going to be a darker green. And by doing it this way, I am building up layers of color. I'm not worried about if I, flow over onto something else. No big deal. We can make this into something really pretty. See, take a little bit of that darker color down inside. Being silly is good, yeah. That size is out of stock on Amazon. Oh no! Right before Christmas, I got a set of 20 of them, so I would not accidentally run out of them. It's one of those things that happens. It does happen. We start getting excited about a certain product. I'm going to grab a little bit of this bit more bluey green, but mix it in to all that green that we have so that we can kind of cool that mint down just a little bit. See how I'm not painting the whole thing in now? I'm letting some of those other colors show through. Makes it feel a little bit more natural. Little more fresh. I am so excited for this whole month of cozy paintings. We are going to be just push right into all that fun coziness, the cups of tea, the coffee, the chocolate. Things that make my heart happy. And that's why I drew them, was because they make my heart happy. So I wonder if... Yeah, see, you can actually see the color more... the color is more represented here. You see how it's brighter? It's not as dark as that top-down camera was showing it, but in general, the top-down camera is a better camera. I'm going to just take that green right over here. I'm going to say these are a little bit more lit up, but they're not because the window's over there. So these would be the ones that are more lit. This is darker. So, time to make that darker. And just look around and look at things. Go, even if you're not painting, look at things and paint it in your head, in your mind. Go, how would I paint that? How would I achieve those colors? What colors can I use? The same way that you would do if you're doing it with acrylic or with oils or anything. How would I achieve that? What do I need to do to get that colorway? And does it have to be exactly the same? No. That's the cool thing. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It doesn't have to match. We're not doing botanical encyclopedia representations, right? This is fun and cozy and peaceful and calming. It is full of, love and chat. Uh-oh. Oh, Duke had passed away in 2018. Duke, the dog from the Bush's Beans commercials. Aww. That's sad. Well, he brought much joy to many people. I'm just picking up a bit darker. Throw a little bit of shadow down inside. Putting a little bit of shadow on helps to make those brights brighter. It even makes those midtones brighter if you can get some dark worked in. Just little bits here and there. I know I tend to get drilled into the fiddliness, and I probably shouldn't, but again, this is where my heart is happy. I'm not a realistic painter by any means, but I do like a good amount of detail, which is sort of counter to what one would think if you're not realistic. But I like details. That's why I was a pen and ink artist before I ever did anything else. Oh yeah, paint in your head. Paint in your head. That's cool stuff. I'm going to go ahead and dry, so that way I don't feel like I'm pushing my hand into this. And we're going to take a look, because I think we don't need to do much more. There's going to be some shadow from the board, but we really don't need to do much more to the wood down here, or even to that sort of out of focus area where the window is in the background. One of the things here is that I do have tape going all the way around, and I will need to push that down just so that it keeps a hold. But then, you know, this tape does release really well from the paper when it has been heated up. So it might heat up and start pulling up. Oh yeah, I paint in my head pretty much everywhere I go. I'm looking at things and thinking, how could I paint that? How could I show that? What would I need to draw that? I take lots of photographs. My patrons over on Patreon know that I take lots of photographs, and I try putting my favorite ones up on my patron only page. You've been looking forward to the live streaming? Awesome, Shanna. So yeah. I'm just really drawing this really, really well. And it is starting to lift up off the board, so I'm going to sort of let that cool down just a moment. Oh, he ate the last of the wafer cookies. Oh no. That's a hanging offense. If you were looking forward to it and he ate the last of them, oh. Tell him he needs to either go get you some more or make some for ya. There we go. All right. Let's go to the top down again so we can sort of take a look and see how that's... and zoom out. So, there we go. What do you think? See, it feels like we've got that sort of dull glow. I might soften that little spot up just a tiny bit, so it feels a little bit more like it's a glow. See, look at that. Paint lifts on this paper. It actually lifts on this paper better than it lifts on regular watercolor paper, I think. So this paper is bamboo and cotton. It's 90% bamboo and 10% cotton. All right. He was supposed to, you know, after a certain period of time being married, I think that they are supposed to be able to read minds. I know I can read his mind. I can read my husband's mind. I know when he wants chips and salsa. I know when he's going to go for that cookie. Here, I just wanted that liner brush pulled out because I saw it getting lost under the edge. All right, so now this is, except for that part that I just put my hand in, let's dry it. See, because that area was more glowy from the window. I think that's good. Now, if I had had some masking fluid, I would maybe mask that edge, the outside edge of the cup, but I don't have masking fluid. So, you know what? We're just going to work it. That's right, Jan. Well, Mark and I have been married for 36 years. 37 in September this year. So I am going to see if that lovely lifting property that I just noticed works. Oh, look at that. I'm able to move back that paint with a slightly damp brush. And clean that up. Oh, how sweet. We're just cleaning up some of those little overshot spots of paint that went onto the cup. How cool. I wonder. There was a drop of paint that had landed. Let's just see what that does. Oh, and even that's got mostly cleaned off. Sweet. And since I'm getting this wet, I think I'm just going to get this wet. And we are going to work around those leaves. The leaves are dry. I'm going to drop color in on the cutting board this time. Not going to get the leaves wet, not going to get the plate wet. Just working my way around. So we're coloring in the next section. And I have not put my shadow down yet underneath of the cutting board. I probably should have worked that in already, but I didn't. So, you know what? It'll get put on after we get everything dry. So now I am looking at that and going, the base color is going to be yellow ochre. So, and I'm just looking at that reference picture right there and going, it's kind of a beigey, yellowy color. So I'm just going to take yellow ochre and maybe a touch of the sepia brown. Kind of dirty it up just a little bit. So now that yellow ochre is a little bit more of a dirty brown. Oh yeah, bamboo is like one of the most renewable resources. It is a grass. It grows incredibly fast, as anybody who has had bamboo planted on the property line by a neighbor can attest to. It runs for miles, and the fibers can make a really good paper. I am not rubbing back and forth, and this paper is, the fibers do lift some. They are soft. This is the Hahnemühle. I do not know how to pronounce it. I probably should have looked it up before. So right now I'm just getting the base color down, and I'm not getting it into the plate or onto my mint. And while it is still wet, I'm going to take some of that sort of burnt sienna. These two browns right here, kind of similar. I'm not sure. Yeah, they're kind of similar. I'm just going to kind of mix them up together. This is wet, and I'm just going to start dropping some of this color down in here to start giving us the broad, those broad areas of wood grain. Somebody picked a really cool looking piece of wood to make this, and I'm letting it blur out. I'm not worried about making these into, you know, sharp lines or anything like that right now. Maybe I'll get a little bit more dark right under the edge of the plate. There's some of that grain that's going across. So when you see grain going across, you see it on the top. It's going to come down the side also. It goes all the way through the wood. So I'm somebody who, my dad has been a woodworker most of my life. And he even has books on wood carving, how to wood carve things, how to wood carve tropical fish, those kinds of things. How to wood carve bears. We're just kind of getting some striping going in here. Not too worried. It's an interesting, probably near knots and things like that. I'm going to grab another paper napkin. It's a little bit drier. And I'm going to pick up more of that paint. Just start dropping it in. Just having fun here. It doesn't have to match what's on the cutting board on the photograph. It's just making a cozy looking cutting board. And I'm going to pick up some of that sepia brown that's on there now. It's a little bit darker brown. I'm going to work with it a little bit thicker. This is the number 12 round brush. It's the Mimic number 12 round by Creative Mark. It is a Jerry's Artorama brand, but you can buy it on Amazon. Many times the Amazon price is less, so check that out. I'm just taking some of that darker color right along the edges of that extra wet paint, so it sort of bleeds in to certain areas and then it flows out. Is Steph live or is this a dropped video? Amy, you now have your answer. This is a live video. This is not dropped. We are not on a, this is not a premiere. I decided I would go ahead and do 2 live videos in one day. So if you did not see the video this morning, we did this cup on a pine wood table with iPad and dark shadows. And that will be listed up in the iCard right after the show. I promise I will get it up there as quickly as possible. Sometimes I have to let YouTube finish processing the video before I can put things on. And sometimes it will let me get there really fast. Sometimes it will process the video really quickly. So yeah, this paper is doing a really big dance. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Mimic set is so nice, and it's very, very economical when you buy it as the Try It pack. They have two sets. They have one that is it is all the brushes. It's these and there's two more. There's the 6 and the 4, I believe. Or maybe there's the 8, 6, 4, the liner rigger, and the 3/4 inch flat. I just don't have all of them sitting here. Oh, there's one of the 4 round. It was laying in my lap. I don't know how that happened. I'm enjoying this board. I want to make that back edge a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of that yellow ochre and just mix it into that sepia brown that we were using. See how that's a little bit darker? But the board is drying, so I can sort of glaze, which is to take another color right over the top of paint that's already there. Now, we already know that the paint lifts on this paper, so I don't want to scrub. I don't want to scrub unless I want to soften a line out. And then I'm going to go ahead and scrub on it just ever so slightly. I have very soft brush. This is a Mimic, so it's mimicking a squirrel brush. So the bristles do not have as much snappiness. Taylor just called. She has baby Lydia rocking her and feeding her a bottle. She's watching me paint on TV. Oh, well, is that Earl Grey tea and cheese? It's chocolate mint and chocolate bars. But it could be Earl Grey tea if you enjoy that. I am not a fan of the bergamot in my tea. And so bergamot in my tea is kind of like drinking perfume. So I'm not an Earl Grey or a Lady Grey. I don't like flowers in my tea except for chamomile. I like chamomile. Chamomile has a slightly appley flavor to it. So, and I'm just glazing some color lightly on here to darken it, put it more into shadow in some spots. This area back here would have more shadow. But then there's also some lighter spaces, some highlights. So I don't want to darken it all. I want to keep this little strip up here. So I think what I'm going to try and do is just sort of lighten that just a little bit with a damp paper towel. This paper towel is damp. It's not soaking wet, but it is damp. And I'm just grabbing some sepia brown to kind of really rock it into that edge right under the plate. The plate is white, so we're going to use a little bit of some grays to kind of give it some shape so it doesn't feel like it's, all just sitting there unadorned. Just going to glaze that just a little bit. This side here is more bright, so I think the window is actually coming along the wall over here and shining back against it. Maybe a little bit darker right in that space. And this is all just, what do I see? You might see something totally different. There we go. I like that sort of random feel to it, that it's got a bit of grain that sort of goes weird places. I think that this was made out of a piece of burl wood right near the knots. So I'm just working it in. And that's the thing that I want you to see. Work things in, let it dry a little bit, see if you like it. If you don't, I'm working in thin layers. I can still change. I can still change a lot of this. Like, I'm not really a happy camper with that particular dark shadow right there, but I can work it back up in underneath of the... I think what it was is there was too much white paper still showing. That's it. See? Work that back in. Get that shadow there. Down here. This edge right here needs to be much darker. Looks like olive wood. Ooh, okay. See, it could be olive wood. It could be myrtle wood. The myrtle trees have a really interesting grain pattern to them also. Myrtle is something that grows here in the Pacific Northwest. Just get that bit darker there. A bit darker above, but I'm going to try and keep that bit of shadow. There we go. Shadow. Keep that bit of highlight. There we go. Ooh, I like that. That turned out really nice there. Okay. I think I want to sort of set this. I know that I really don't want these colors to drift too much more. Grab some of that darker tone right there. I can always go back in and add more dark. And as you can see on this paper, we can actually take away a lot of the dark too. But I want to dry it and then soften up a little bit. You have an ant named Myrtle? Oh, how sweet. It's a lifesaver. Very small knob of ginger, a small amount of turmeric, and 2 wedges of lemon. Let it steep for 3 to 5 minutes. Pour and add honey. Ooh. That sounds absolutely delicious. You had a bad reaction to mint tea. It felt like cracked pepper in your mouth. Wow. Wow, yeah. There are people who are allergic to mint. Absolutely. Just like anything we consume, there are going to be people who are sensitive. I am sensitive to a lot of different things. I can't eat walnuts. Actually, I can't eat walnuts, pecans, or filberts, as we call them here, or hazelnuts. I grew up with them being called filberts, and then they got all fancy and started being called hazelnuts. So keep the turmeric and ginger subtle. Got it. I love ginger. My favorite candy is just eating chunks of crystallized ginger. We have an natural organic store, and I go and buy my ginger there. I'm going to take a bit more of the yellow ochre and kind of glaze in. I want to warm that color up just a bit. Sort of like putting a layer of varnish on it. Look at that. Warm it up. This got a little bit messy right there. Can just sort of smudge it out. So the grain just sort of ends up being a subtle thing. So I'm spending a lot of time on something that is actually going to end up being very subtle, aren't I? And that's because I'm in my happy place. And I'm doing what makes my heart happy, it makes me so filled with joy that you are here. If you're new here and you are interested in my artwork, please click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends. If you turn on the notifications, you will be notified, but you have to make sure that your notifications are turned on everywhere and that your phone and your tablet agree with you having notifications. I found that out for myself, that if I turned off notifications on my tablet and had them on my phone, because I had them off on my tablet, it still wouldn't give them to me on my phone. Putting a little line of that extra dark right here and right along. This is just the straight sepia brown. My brush is not very wet. You start working with less and less water as you work your way through the painting. That's another trick. That's another top tip. As you start getting to more and more detail, you're using less and less water. And then this edge back here is actually kind of a whiter shadow. And I'm sort of lifting up the brush. I'm flicking my brush. Soft, dark, darkest right next to the board, and then I'm just letting it fade off. And then I need a bit more of that dark that we made earlier. Really make that dark shadow, just sort of smooth it, flick it across. It's not a harsh shadow. And actually, I probably took that way out farther than I needed to. So now what I'll do, I'm going to take some more of that dark and I'm going to bring it back here. It looks like it's more dark in this area, kind of in almost a wedge. So you've got, because you have light coming from multiple sides, that's what it is. There we go. That's making more sense. My paper is sort of pulled up a little bit, so we're actually starting to see a little bit of that white edge. So now I have to be a little more careful. I see more of a shadow on the table coming out this way, and then it disappears into the shoulder. There we go. Just sort of let it be softened up, but you want it to be there. You just don't need it to be. There we go. I'm just dabbing that in now. We're going to see if it will sort of work its way into being a smooth shadow. I think it's going to be fine. There we go. Whoops! Did you get Jan back, Gina? Let's see. Unhide user. There we go. Jan, can you try sending me a message? Okay, there it is. It says I have unhidden you, Jan. You should be able to be seen again. Now Gina has learned a lesson, eh? Don't roll a ball over your keyboard. Yeah, it's tricky. Sometimes things like that happen. All right, I'm going to I want to get the shadows in the cup and then do the chocolate. I think that's what I want to do. So the shadows in the cup. I need to just stop playing with that board and just start. The shadows in the cup are reflecting what's around it. So the shadows are going to be this sort of gray color. I'm not working on a wet surface. I am working on dry paper. I'm going to try and not paint the leaves. You know, I see there's a dark space up here on the handle. That this side of the handle is dark. I want to leave places where there's light showing though. And one of the things is I will be able to just do more dark if I need to get those shadows. Then we've got dark on the inside lip of this cup, that edge inside the cup, and it doesn't look like it's super dark yet. I'm going to make it darker, and I'm going to put some brown in it, but first I want to just get that edge. I'm trying to leave the very top edge clean, just in a couple spots so that I can have a nice highlight. You're back. Yay. There we go. I am going to grab some more of that Prussian blue. Kind of blew up that shadow just a little bit. Blew it up. So I've started doing some cleaning up in my studio space. That's a really nice dark shadow underneath the edge of the cup. I've started cleaning up some of my studio space. I am going to I'm going to try and clean my studio space, rearrange things without touching my camera setup. That's going to be a challenge. It's much darker right here. It's actually much darker right there on the inside of the lip, inside of the cup, because that side is being blocked. We've got a much darker spot right up there. We've got actually shadow on the plate. So I'm using that blue-gray as my shadow. What happens with a blue plate or a white plate is that you mostly see it based on the shadows and highlights. So this one, it says there's that, and then there's going to be a bit of a shadow that's right up underneath of here and under the edge of that mint, because I kind of moved my mint. So the shadow that was shooting out from the cup and the chocolate, it doesn't quite line up. So I'm trying to just work it in. There's shadow here, there's shadow under the edge of the chocolate. There's going to be shadow under the edge of the plate, but there's a highlight. I may be going back in and doing more highlight with the yellow, with the white, with the white gouache. There we go. Might be doing some more highlighting with the white gouache. I'm going to put a little bit of dark right there on the back inside of the plate and sort of tuck down in under the mint. There's this, funnily enough, a weird little shadow that's right there. Mostly that's from the handle. Bit more shadow right here. See, we're working our way down in details. Even though this is a big area, it's more details. And it's fun to do stuff like this. I mean, we still have the chocolate and that kind of froth that's inside the cup. Oh, Amy, thank you. I am so glad that my giggle brings joy. It's just one of those things. Just the giggle I was born with. I probably was one of those, well, actually, my mom says that I was one of those babies that if I laughed, everybody around me was laughing. Now, I just rinsed my brush out because I want to soften that edge of that darker blue that was on the right there. Softening the edges, trying to not have quite such a hard edge. Boom, boom, boom. There, see? Oh, this is actually looking really pretty. So that's something else, guys. When you see something, and many of my folks that have been here for a while, they've heard me say this before. When you see something in a painting that you like, that you just did, tell yourself that you liked it. You might wipe it out. It might go away. But at that moment, I really liked what that did. I like how the shaping of this cup is going. Yeah. Now I see that there's sort of a darker path coming down through here, but there's a brighter patch. So what I'm going to do, set that down. I'm going to take, because I just got it wet, there's a brighter patch right here. I'm not sure what it's from, but I wanted that. And then there's a slightly darker gray. And I'm looking at this going, it kind of comes back and forth. Has sort of an interesting organic shape to it, and then it sort of tucks back. I'm not sure what that shadow is coming from. Interesting shadow. Don't know. I don't know. The wizard might. Let's go and ask him. Let's go ask the Wizard of Oz. What can I say? I can be very, very silly sometimes, and I think that that adds to the fun. I'm going to put a little bit more of this much darker line right through there. I kind of drew the space that I wanted it in. So let's just get that a much darker line. There's a little bit of that right here, that darker tone. We're actually seeing more of this because I didn't put the mint over as far. A bit of that handle, I think, that handle shadow. And then I'm just, boop. I have a piece of hair. If a piece of hair doesn't come out that easy, just let the paper dry, and then you can go and get that pesky little piece of hair out. So Taylor, I hope that you are enjoying this, that you're having fun watching it, taking care of your little sister. All right, that's, I need to put a darker line in on the bottom of the edge of the plate. Yeah, this one did turn out to be a little bit longer, didn't it? Making that dark gray, and that was the sepia brown and the Prussian blue together. I'm I'm going to rotate this so I can get along that edge. Try and leave a little bit that highlight at the top. That's looking good. That's looking good. Okay. Like that. We need this little bit right in there. Much darker. That area right at the base of the cup. And I can take some of that right here. Just a little bit on the edge underneath of the plate. And even though the edge of the plate is wet, this is the same color that I had just used. See how that just popped that up? Boom. Brought it right up off the edge of the board. All right, chocolate. Ah, she heard me call her name. Ah, well, thank you so much, Taylor. And you think that that should be mint chocolate cocoa and Nana's shortbread. Ah. Well, I'm going to do these as pieces of chocolate, but you could certainly, when you paint it, you could certainly paint it as shortbread cookies. More than happy to see what that looks like. See, I just sort of cleaned up a little bit, moved that paint around. It was bleeding out a little bit more than I wanted. I'm going to dry this. We're going to do the chocolate. And we're going to end the froth on the inside of the cup. So I probably could just let this sit and dry, but I want to dry it just to make sure. Right. Yeah, so, we all need to eat what makes us feel healthier. And, many times I have a friend who she's actually allergic to caffeine. Now I'm making this really big for a second here so we can look at that chocolate. And looking at that chocolate, it actually has a very red tone to it, maybe like a burgundy, and then some of the sepia brown going in, and a little bit of sienna brown, and some of that Prussian blue. But it's got that burgundy, so it has that red tone to it. And I want to make sure that I get that in there because it makes it feel enough different. Also, we can look really close at, yeah, we didn't do too bad on our cutting board. I could probably push up the darkness at the end of the cutting board. But, we're not doing too bad. I think the contrast right here is a little bit light on the board right there and right there. We'll take care of that after we get the chocolate and that color in up at the top. So I'm going to grab some of this kind of burgundy red color, and then some of that sienna brown, and a ton of the sepia brown. Ooh, that's starting to make chocolate. Not quite chocolatey enough yet, but that might give us our first layer basis. Ooh, that is very chocolatey. Yay! That went in. Oh wow, that did it. It did what I needed. So, yeah, I'm looking at that going, ooh. Nice chocolate brown. The really dark. Then we'll have a layer of it going out on the top that is not as dark. So I need to... Hello, Uncle Dan. Welcome. So I'm going to lighten that up just like this. Not rubbing too hard, but rubbing on the edge of the paint to try and break it loose, move around, and leave us some highlights. Because we need some highlights on that chocolate. So I'm just going to lighten that up. This paper, the Hahnemühle or Hahnemühle bamboo paper that I'm working on here, these colors lift like a dream on here. So now I'm just picking up some of that dark that I put down and moving it around. The paper is very delicate, so you don't want to do too much in the way of scrubbing on it. I am going to bump up my contrast, so I'm just working this around. First layers. Don't worry about it. It's just your first layer. You can adjust, you can bump up your contrast, you can, start to obliterate some of those lines if you don't want lines anymore. I want the lines. I like the look of ink and wash, which is doing my ink drawing and then putting the wash in afterwards. Some people like to do wash then ink. I'm looking at what's going on here. Does it have a stock number? The bamboo paper is the Hahnemühle bamboo mixed media paper. It is the 265 GSM. Let's see here. They tell us reference number for the different sizes. So the size pad that I have is the 24 centimeter by 32 centimeter, or it's 9.4 inches by 12.6 inches. And that is the reference number of 10628-540. And you can find Hahnemühle. I do have it linked on my Amazon affiliate store, so you can find it there. They do not sell direct to the public, so you do have to find somebody who is a reseller. If you have a local store, a local art shop that you love, and they don't carry the Hahnemühle paper, please tell them to find it. And contact, I believe it's Hahnemühle US. And Carol Boss is the United States marketing director, I believe. So if you have a shop that is looking for the information, please let me know. I will get you in touch. I'm not making any money from Hahnemühle. This is the only thing that I've done is said, sure, I'll use some of your paper on my channel because I want to try it. I've seen other people using it and I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. And so they sent me some so I could try it. So I have some of the bamboo paper. I have some of their collections, cold press watercolor paper. That's the 140 pound 300 GSM. The Eco Pen is this right here, Eco Pen. This is the 0.38. I keep an eye out on Amazon. It goes in and out of stock quite a lot. Apparently right now it's out of stock, but keep an eye out for it. I do have links in my Amazon shop. So if you're interested, and it goes, like I said, in and out of stock. It also they are waterproof. They dry almost instantly, and the size I like is the 0.38. But that's me. I know that you can usually find the 0.5, but that's a bit big of a tip for me. Look at that chocolate. Let's go to the side view and see. Ooh, look at that. We're working the darkness in. We're working the darkness in for that chocolate. I want to make sure that I leave some areas for highlights. So, just getting right up on the very tippy tip of that brush, aren't I? I'm hardly touching the paper. I'm not bending that tip down at all. I'm not going to have to use any white on this, it looks like. It looks like I'm keeping enough of the highlight. And yeah, this could very well be, you know, Andes mints. It could be other, you know, after dinner truffles. Those little chocolates that you get. These ones make me think of the Andes mints, the mint chocolates. That one makes me think of like Cadbury chocolates. Oh yeah, the slightly larger eco pens for younger people. Absolutely. Absolutely. Truthfully, there's a time and a place for all sizes of pens. I'm putting a little bit more dark, chocolatey. This making me so happy. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to take some of this dark chocolate, and I'm actually going to put it right up here around softly. Oh, look at that. It's like hot cocoa, and the cream has all melted down into it. Just gotta get that down where we can see it. Look at that. I'm just very, very lightly, just sort of dry brushing. My brush is almost dry, and I'm just ever so slightly, very lightly touching, making kind of a shadow ring, which would be like how oh, yum. That looks really, really good. Yeah, see, again, I am telling myself, wow, that looks really yummy. Now I want to look, where do I need more shadows? Bodice Ripper's coloring books, Amy. Who's doing Bodice Ripper coloring books? That's kind of like the old the old style romances that they would find. See, my mom was a Harlequin romance person, so I mean, they didn't have Bodice Ripper covers. They were sweet and chaste, at least on the outside. I don't know. I never read them. I know they're very formulaic, very much like Hallmark, like the Hallmark Christmas movies. Very formulaic. You know, there were probably like 4 stories, and they just kept changing the names and sort of using the same scenes over and over. I am looking at trying to come up with a couple fun downloadable products that I can put into my Teespring shop for Valentine's. Not just a coloring book. Oh, that chocolate looks so yummy. Not just coloring books. Maybe, you know, maybe something with more sayings and things like that. Maybe something that's funny. Maybe doing one that's for the Galentine's I saw something that a person had shared, and it was, basically lovers have 1 day a year, single people have 364. Those kinds of things. Not getting sad. Romance novels, Hallmark romance novels, that's exactly it. When you were 15 or see, I remember sneaking over to the grown-up side, which I don't know why these would have been in the grown-up side, but they were like Cherry Ames, student nurse, Cherry Ames, camp counselor. So the, you know, older version, not, older than the Hardy Boys, older than the Bobbsey twins, older than the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew. Cherry Ames she was a grown-up. I mean, I was like 11, 12, sneaking over to the grown-up side of the library and finding books. And going and reading them. They were fast reads. There we go. I think that is yummy. So now what I want to do is look and find, where are my highlights? I do want to use a little bit of white gouache, I think. I don't want to use too much of the gouache, and I'm just going to put it right here on the board. Celebration of love and kindness. Oh, I like that. I like that. Celebration of love and kindness. Yeah, please click that like button. And if you're new here, guys, click that subscribe button. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. I am doing 30 designs this month. They were all drawn on the live stream that was New Year's Eve. That will be linked up here at the top corner, right up there. I will be linking that right after the show is over. I kind of knew this one was going to take me a little bit longer. Tomorrow at noon is going to be the next live stream. I'm just putting some of this white gouache right along that edge, just to give me a little bit more of a highlight and kind of a clean up that edge. See, truthfully, there's a light on the inside of this one right here. Just let's go to that side view and see if you can see what I'm doing here. I'm resting my finger on the board, on the painting itself, and trying to give myself the best chance of keeping a fairly firm, balanced point. So we've got a bit of this light on that foam on the inside. Really weird. We've got a bit more light over here. Not perfectly bright. There is a bit of light on the outside of the cup. Right there. We have, actually I've got a good spot there. That's good and light. That's good. Looking at this going, I don't really need too much right here, but I've got it on my brush. I might as well put a little bit there. I like that edge right here. Don't really want to mess with that. There's kind of a spark of light on the inside of the plate on that edge, and a little bit of a highlight kind of reflecting back from the plate, I think. There's a little speck of highlight on that corner. Maybe a touch of it like this. Oh, cool. You found a 20 mil tube of Winsor Newton gouache instead of a whole set. So did you get white? If you have white gouache, you can do all kinds of gouache paintings with just one tube of white and a set of watercolor. Did you know that? You can. Actually, even though I left it kind of light right here, I'm going to come in. There was a little bit of some pen that went into the cup. And now on the downloadable, so on the downloadable book that is linked at the top of the chat and down in the information, and it will be up in the iCard after the show. This book is all of the designs. So I wanted to open it up. And all this is, the pages are set up as 8.5 by 11 with 2 images that are, back or facing each other, basically. And so what I did is I just cut it down the middle, stack them all up with all of them facing the same direction. And then I glued it on the edge. And this was glued with, I just did it really fast. So I used Mod Podge. I'm just going to grab my Elmer's glue all and just give it a really good sealing of that. But this is tomorrow's. At noon, we're doing daisies and tea. So this morning we did, I'll say that was like a cafe latte with whipped cream on top. Tonight we did mint chocolate cocoa. And tomorrow we're doing daisies and maybe chamomile tea or a very calming tea. What can I say? Sometimes I just have to just do the fun stuff. You bought the downloadable book? Yay! Yeah, the downloadable book. I mean, it's a really good deal. I mean, you get 30 designs and it's $6. It actually helps my channel out more than the actual books, printed books from Amazon. The downloadable books are an easier way. You get something that you can print out immediately. I actually earn more money off of the downloadable books than I do off of the Amazon books. And the Amazon books, I kind of have to do, $6.99, $7. And these I'm doing for $5.99 for the downloadable book. So, instant delivery and all of those things. But I make a higher profit margin off of the downloadable books. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm trying to say thank you so much to everyone who is making those purchases. That really helps my studio. And, it's incentive. It's more incentive to keep making more. I need to just stop playing with that. Maybe I think what I need is, see, that's what I need. I need just a little bit of this white gouache. I kind of pushed it out a little too far. Push that gray up a little too much. There we go. Print them out, cut them in half, use them as a book, use them as reference, and it also makes it so when you cut them in half, if you want to, if you take 8.5 by 11 watercolor paper or mixed media paper and feed that through, if your printer allows for heavier paper. I did that. Here, we're gonna let that just sit for a second. let it dry. We're almost done. There we go. So this is this is the actual painting that I did for the cover. So, see? Look at that. My printer doesn't do too bad matching colors, does it? Look at that. And see, it is done to size. So this is made as a half sheet of that. See? This was printed on the Arteza premium watercolor paper. It is the wood pulp paper, 140 pounds, and it went through my printer. And the black that's on here is the ink didn't run from the printer, and that really made me happy. So there we go. Yeah, those bunny slippers. That'll be the day 16. That'll be day 16 if I do them all in order. I might not do everything in order, but they'll all be done. I'm just going to give this one quick little hit. I will sign it really quick also, and then we will pull the tape off. The reason why I'm hitting it here is just so that I can make sure that the tape is really well loosened up. There we go. I'm going to sign this really fast. Let's just make sure my pen is still working. I think I'm going to sign it kind of on the board right up here. Because I do my little initials, I kind of tuck my signature in unexpected places. Now you can, if you wanted to, go in and, add some pen lines, make it a little bit darker underneath the edge, those kinds of things. You could doodle on this, anything that made you happy. I am pretty happy here. I think right there. I'm just going to touch. Oh, look at that. That one little pen line just sort of went boop and popped it away from the edge. We're going to pull that tape off. See how loose that is? The tape is not really holding on to anything. By using the heat tool, it loosened that tape up so it's not pulling the fibers. If I had not loosened the tape up, it would be tearing my paper because the bamboo paper is so soft. Get those things out of the way. And look at that. We have a lovely mint chocolate cocoa with pieces of mint chocolates and maybe just some milk chocolate or dark chocolate over there. I hope that you guys enjoyed this quiet and peaceful time. You had a pleasant evening. You got to visit with your friends and, you got to just take care of yourself. And that's really what I want here. I want us to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of those we love around us. And by doing something creative, that really helps us. All right, there we are. That's done. I hope that you enjoyed it. And join me tomorrow at 12 noon Pacific time for now I don't have it right there. Oh, there it is. For the daisies and tea. So that'll be tomorrow at noon Pacific. Take care, guys, and I'll see you then.